And right now, as promised, Governor Hochul making an announcement about subway safety. She just delivered her 5-point plan. Let's listen in.
Dan Oliver, you'll be hearing from him momentarily. You've heard him speak many times about the challenges we face on the subway, and he is so committed to making sure that our subways are safe, and I applaud his leadership. We also have Thomas Taffy, the Chief of Operations for MTA Police. The MTA Police are a critical part of this answer. But also, we have Major General Shields. This is my team, the Army National Guard, and Superintendent Stephen James of the New York State Police. All of them have come together to help us figure out the resources that we can bring to this situation. So we'll be having 750 members of the New York National Guard, as well as another 250 personnel from state and MTA police. You'll start seeing them at the tables, making sure that weapons are not being brought in, working in concert with our New York State Police, as well as our NYPD. Because no one heading to their job or to visit family or to go to a doctor appointment should worry that the person sitting next to them possesses a deadly weapon. They shouldn't worry about whether someone's going to brandish a knife or gun. That's what we're going to do at these checkpoints. Number two, I'm proposing that we amend New York State laws in this session in a matter of weeks to allow courts to ban anyone from riding the subway or taking a bus who's convicted of a violent crime against another passenger. Now, there's already a similar law in the books intended to protect personnel from the MTA. But that law has many loopholes that we've identified, and indeed, it's only been used 3 times since it was first enacted in 2020. We're going to get to the bottom of that, find out what's missing, what language is required. So basically, if you assault someone on the subways, you won't be on the subways. And a judge will now have the power to make sure that for at least 3 years, they'll have the ability to keep you off the subways. Now, this isn't some radical idea. Think about if you're convicted of a DWI. And a judge determines that you're a danger. Guess what? You're not riding on our roads. You're not able to drive a vehicle. You lose your license. It's the same principle right here. And I expect the judges to use that discretion. Point 3, we're strengthening the cooperation between the police who patrol the subways and the district attorneys who prosecute the crimes. This is something that came up at our meetings. The district attorneys need to know the full body of evidence that's out there with respect to these recidivists and repeat offenders, something that the mayor and I understand. Enhanced coordination will be a hallmark of our effort to drive down gun crime. It has been. That coordination has helped us drive down gun crime. We spoke about that earlier this week up in Albany. Also helped us deal with car thefts, driving down those crimes as well. I believe it can work on the subways as well. A couple of components. Effective immediately, the MTA will work with the district attorneys and the NYPD to create a new early warning system for repeat offenders. We know who they are. They'll flag the criminal history at the time of arrest, so it can be fully considered when decisions regarding charging and bail are made. Second, we're establishing regular meetings between the police on the subways and the district attorneys. We'll hold them at the Crime Analysis Center right here in New York City. Again, bringing people together, sharing data, making sure there's accountability. And let me explain why that's significant. These meetings will give a regular forum for police and DAs to get the full picture of someone who's charged with a crime. Have the police had run-ins with them before? The police certainly know. Are they constantly causing trouble? Are they menacing to others? I want DAs to have all the background and information they need to make a strong case before a judge in court. This will make sure that the repeat offenders are dealt with accordingly. Again, I need the judges to uphold their end of the bargain. They are an important part of this. Last year, we gave judges more discretion. You all know the budget was 1 month late because I held it up to make sure I could get the discretion back to judges that they no longer would simply use the least restrictive means when considering bail. That is history. That is not the law. It has come to my attention that there are still some judges applying that standard. So we're talking to the Office of Court Administration, enhancing education, saying, no, the law has since changed. It has gone into effect, and that would be having gone into effect since May of 2023. So I'm anticipating that we'll see a change in results when you look 1 year from now, but these new laws have only been in place less than a year. So I'm just saying to the judges, use the tools that we've now given you to protect New Yorkers. Point 4 is about protecting our transit workers. If a camera had been positioned on Alton Scott's conductor cabin last Thursday, we probably would have already apprehended the person who slashed his neck. Or maybe they wouldn't have done it at all if they knew there were cameras watching their every move. Now, I've already pushed the MTA to speed up the installation of cameras in subway cars, and thank you for your commitment to do that. We've shaved off many, many months, and every month is going to make a difference. They'll all be completed by the end of this year, not the longer period that had been first talked about. And I think that's an essential deterrent. If someone who's going to do harm to someone else knows that it is being recorded, that there's cameras watching them, they might just think twice about it. But also, if they go forth with committing a crime, we'll have the evidence to make sure they don't do it again. But also, there's a blind spot in the cabin. And that's why today I'm directing the MTA to install cameras in every single conductor cabin, as well as the platforms that face the cabins. Now, these transit workers, they have hard jobs, a lot of uncertainty, especially in light of the recent increases in crimes on the subways that they have seen. They keep our city running morning, noon, and night, and they deserve every level of protection to offer. The information gathered on the cameras will simply be used to aid in the prosecution of anyone who commits an offense. Point 5 is we're expanding the joint MTA and New York City-run pilot program. It's called SCOUT. You may have heard of it. It stands for Subway Co-Response Outreach Teams. Now, these are led by mental health clinicians, but here's the difference between them and the SOS teams that I've talked about. These teams are also backed up by the police. They have police officers along for backup, and they only deal with individuals having the most severe mental health crises, those that our SOS mental health teams cannot safely approach without police support. These are literally the people who could pose danger to themselves or to others, and it is evident. So these teams will work to get them out of the subways. They already are there, get them services and support. And if something bad happens, they can use force if necessary to have them removed from the subway. In many cases, it means getting them into the psychiatric hospitals. You know, I've had a lot of effort trying to open up more beds so they're available. And also, we have 2 of these teams in place right now. Today, I'm announcing an additional $20 million to have up to 10 more teams by the end of next year. Now, this is, again, in addition to our SOS teams, which have been doing tremendous work. I've met them many times. We've had them into our office. They've moved more than 350 struggling New Yorkers off the streets and into stable housing, the result that we were looking for, and it's getting better. People feel the difference. So, to recap our 5-point plan, bag checks will be conducted by over 1,000 members of the New York State Police, MTA Police, National Guard. In addition to what the city is doing, we're coordinating with the City of New York, so people will see this. A bill to allow judges to ban people from using the subway, people who attack others and are convicted of a violent crime. Improve coordination between police and DAs to keep violent criminals off the subways. Cameras on and in the conductor cabins, and expanding our mental health outreach teams. Here's the message today. Anyone looking to do harm or spread fear on our subways, you will be caught. Plain and simple. There will be consequences. This has to end. New Yorkers deserve no less. And to those who are feeling anxious whenever they walk through those turnstiles, we will stop at nothing to keep you safe, you and your family members, and restore your peace of mind. Now, to further talk about and amplify these efforts, I'd like to introduce Jana Lieber, and again, thank him for so quickly responding and being there on the front lines to make sure that everyone who takes the New York City subways are safe. Jano?
Last year, in the face of huge challenges, Governor Hochul stepped up for subway riders. With her budget, she rescued the system economically, protecting us from cuts in service, layoffs, and even massive fare hikes that so many transit systems nationwide are facing, for example, in New Jersey. Together with Mayor Adams, she launched the Cops Cameras in Care initiative to improve safety within the subway system, surging officers underground, challenging us at the MTA to ramp up the installation of security cameras, and bringing in new resources to help those most vulnerable New Yorkers who are sheltering in the subway system. Again and again, our governor has shown her commitment to transit safety and to our riders. That work has had an impact. Yes, although we are focusing today on the perception of safety after Cops Cameras in Care, the surge in subway crime was beaten back last year, and last year we finished not only below 2022 in crime, but below pandemic levels. But today, in response to those high-profile crimes that the governor has talked about, she is taking additional and significant actions to address the fact that riders have been put on edge by some of this news. And I think these initiatives are going to make the system actually safer and feel safer. First, on the cameras, let me underscore again, since last year, under Governor Hochul's leadership, we have increased to 15,000 the number of cameras in the system, and we're rapidly installing cameras on board all of the trains in the system. This has never been done before. For years, that was a hole in our visibility. Now that is being turned around, and that's already proven to allow identification and apprehension of numerous offenders. Talk to Chief Kemper of the NYPD Transit Bureau about it, the impact of cameras on his work. And now we're doing what the governor talked about, cameras in conductor cabs, because we must first and foremost address the risk to our brave transit workers. No one should have to go through what Alton Scott went through last year. I also want to emphasize the historic actions that the governor has taken on mental health already. $1 billion initiative on mental health. No one's made a priority and a commitment of that level. The SOS program, which has already taken so many hundreds of homeless people out of the system, and not least the restoration of psychiatric beds, which became unavailable during COVID. We needed those beds back, and the governor pushed the hospitals to make them available. That's why we are able now to initiate this Scout program. We need, it's no secret that most of the folks who are suffering with severe mental illness in the system are not dangerous. But if you're on a train with someone who's having a psychotic episode and acting out in aggressive ways, you're not going to feel safe. You're not going to feel safe. We have to humanely address the needs of those folks. And the governor is now giving us the resources to do that at scale.
And I think Chairman Jano Lieber hit it on the head right there. The perception, but more importantly, the feeling. What do you feel like when you're on a train and you see the heartbreaking situation of somebody clearly suffering a mental episode? We're going to have more on that topic coming up with my conversation with Mayor Adams and the NYPD Chief of Transit, Michael Kemper. That's in just a few moments, but this is an ambitious 5-point plan and something that a lot of riders have been calling for a while.
Yeah, so far we just heard from the governor, and that 5-point plan included, number 1, increasing patrols. Number 2,
more.
Including bag checks. 2, amending New York State's laws to allow courts to ban anyone convicted of a violent crime against a passenger, something we have not heard. 3, cooperation between police and the DA. 4, protecting transit workers, especially in light of what just happened to that conductor. And
installation of cameras, and big on that. On the platforms, in the cabs, in the cars, everywhere.
Yes. And then number 5, a joint MTA and New York City run pilot program, basically expanding the mental health outreach. teams inside the subway system.
And you will hear from our conversation with the mayor and the head of transit from the NYPD, it is the recidivism, the people that commit the crimes. There's a small number of criminals that commit the majority of the crimes, and so they're trying to tackle that, including there's a case of 23-year-old Amira Hunter, a case we're following for later editions of Eyewitness News. She's 23 years old. She's accused of hitting a musician in the subway system with a metal bottle. She was arrested, brought before a judge, and a judge decided to release her under a supervised release and not hold her on bail. Well, now we understand that Ms. Hunter has just been arrested again. That's the type of situation that the governor is talking about, creating this full spectrum and scope for the DA and the police to come together to present to the judge. So all that we'll get into as we continue in that important conversation with the mayor.
A lot of conversations to follow, but I think something for us all to kind of feel good on, and I hope you'll watch the rest of the show because Mike's got a great interview, but that they are moving forward a lot of the things, a lot of the common sense measures that we have said, hey, we need this, hey, we need that, hey, we need this. Looks like it's all being pushed forward, so we'll see if it actually works.